Let's give it a minute. Hello, everybody that's just joining. Welcome to Lore Live. Is that what we're calling
Yeah, Lord Live. Let's do it.
it? Lore Live. I thought me and Jason should start doing some more live streams, talk about what we're doing, what we're building, and some of the success and accomplishments we have. I think the main one, for sure, is Fridge Magnet. That has been really successful for us, especially over the past few weeks with shows like Florida Lee, What the Church Got funded completely. And then we're now working on Esoterra, which is almost funded. I predict if it's not funded by the end of the live stream, it'll probably be funded for sure next loot day. And so a lot of excitement there. Dude, I'm telling you, I've been watching the behind the scenes videos that Nick has put out about Esoterra.
Yeah.
That dude is smart, man.
I know. Well, that's what I was saying for a long time. Is we got this guy? We just need to get him a platform because he's so good at what he does.
Well, I was just telling someone I was on a podcast before this, and I was like, the fact that somebody hasn't written Nick $1 million check for Esoterra yet is insane to me. But I think it shows you just the level of incompetence in terms of thinking about content or film in a steps way among conservative space. Because we say all the time, like everybody just says. I was reading something today. I think it was Red Pilled America. They were talking about how many hundreds of millions of dollars have been put into conservative media, and there's not been any. You wouldn't know it.
Yeah,
there'd
be, and the reason that you wouldn't know it isn't because there aren't talented filmmakers. Isn't because it's because we haven't built any effective pipelines yet on the conservative side.
Right. Let's talk about that because that's what Fridge Magnet is for sure. That's what Lore is as a whole, but it's also what Fridge Magnet is on a smaller level on our platform. So I have $100 million and I want to make a movie. I could write that check, but there's no guarantee that spending $100 million is going to make a successful film. That's a thing right now, especially in a streaming platform. Like $100 million is not going to guarantee a successful streaming platform. Because if you think of it, honestly, like in terms of money, $100 million isn't a lot for a streaming platform in general. Especially if the platform is the one funding all the content. So you have maybe $100 million gets you maybe 10 $10 million movies, and that doesn't even include developers and technology and the tech company aspect of the platform. So it's not a lot. I think that's why like Lore is so different, because we focus on micro budgets now. We're focusing on really creating artists that have a pathway to success over time. And that's something that just doesn't exist in the conservative media space. Although it does exist in Hollywood all over, right? So, I mean, like Saturday Night Live is a great example of that pipeline, right? So it starts in smoky, dark improv comedy rooms where the improv artists and comedians are not getting paid any money. And, they're getting paid maybe $100 a week if they're lucky. And some of them are volunteering. Some of them are paying
to be there,
take the classes, right? And so, but Lorne Michaels, next thing you know, Lorne Michaels comes to see you, and then you get a Saturday Night Live deal, and then after 3 to 5 years on Saturday Night Live, you're finally a cast member and not just a background player. And then once you're a cast member for a while, you become Adam Sandler or a Tina Fey, and you're producing movies in Hollywood. So that whole pathway that starts in the smoky improv comedy clubs all the way to running your own studio like Sandler does, a massively successful studio. All of that is there, and we don't have that. Like, what's the path? If I were to ask you, without saying Lore, What's a pathway to becoming a successful conservative filmmaker?
Well, I think the difficulty is the the conservative side, right? So because if you can get jobs on set, if you can get build out a um the connections and make connections, there are pathways in Hollywood, there are pathways in Atlanta. There are pathways in different places, but most of the time you're being trained by uh, somebody that is opposing conservatisms, right? So Netflix, for example, they do have low end development style stuff, but the way that you get to it, is by means of uh, you know making connections in the already existing film industry, most of which by means of gatekeeping is now very far left leaning, right? That's just and that's not a secret. I don't think there's anybody even trying to pretend it's any other way, right? And what happens is to get to the place where you can have some sort of control, you have to make a lot of compromises along the way. And so the chances of you remaining a conservative or being able to be a public conservative and get to those positions is really really slim. And even more so, a Christian. I had a conversation once with a somebody that was interested in becoming my manager as a writer, and when I said I don't want to work on things that mistreat women and demean women, like Game of Thrones, literally the response was, "Wait, I don't understand." And I said, "Well, do you see that Game of Thrones is really demeaning to women, right?" And they didn't have a category for moral scruples, as they called them. And for uh because if you say no to something, then you don't get other offers, right? And that's just
Yeah.
a gatekeeping thing, right? You just do that. And that's not always the case, but that was the in my case, that wasn't a manager that I ended up going with, because they didn't understand even the category of, well, here's the kinds of shows I don't want to work on for moral reasons. So that's not how they think. Not That's not how the industry does business. So it's hard to keep your um, morality intact. I mean, it's really sad hearing things like
So the
about
right now, I think the pathway for there's two pathways I would say for conservatives to become influential in media. One, that's talk radio, right? So,
yep, talk
you
radio,
know, you have
podcasting.
someone like Matt Walsh, he was wasn't he in Second City? You said that he was
Groundlings, I think well, I
Groundlings,
can't
yeah.
remember.
So
He
he was
came
in
from
improv comedy. He was in improv
improv comedy. Yeah.
comedy, and so he's now did political talk radio. Same thing with Aaron Metaxas, right? He's the editor of Yale Comedy, sending emails back and forth with Conan O'Brien at Harvard, and he's doing conservative talk radio. And so, like, I think all of our best, because we don't have those pathways, all of our best talent is just goes that political route, and we create celebrities from politicians. Our politicians are celebrities. Trump, Tucker, whether it's Walsh or Eric Metaxas, like that. That's how, like, that sort of celebrity culture works in conservatism. I mean, me and you we were at the Turning Point event when Tucker came out, and it was like going to a rock star
Yeah.
concert, and we're like, this is really weird
It is.
because but like it was great. I mean, Tucker could be a star at whatever he chose to do, but it's just interesting that, like, that's who our rock stars are. It's our political correspondents, as opposed to our musicians and our filmmakers and our actors and celebrities.
Well, and what's crazy is it's our political commentators, right? It's those that so our highest, the celebrities are the ones that live in response and respond to what the left is doing. Right. So they're not creating
Right.
anything. It's this, we have this response based culture that says they did this. Let's look at our celebrities and see how they respond.
Right. No, and I think no, you're absolutely right. And so that creates that means all our politicians are basically their art is propaganda, right? Like very directly so. All art is propaganda for something. But basically conservative art now has become basically a pure flick style preachy sermon every movie or TV show. And the same is true with leftists have taken that for sure on their end, where was everyone's fed up with the leftist propaganda in every movie. They're basically, their same that same style that Christians have done poorly so well. Right? We're like, it's just, let's just make, let's just rip investors off, and if it doesn't make money, that's okay, as long as there was a message that was preached and it changed someone's life. But it doesn't make an ROI because it just wasn't a good movie, and that was never the hope that it would be a good movie. So you have the same problems with the Hollywood left, the conservative right, and then the Christian faith-based film. They're all doing the same thing now. And so I think as we've been building lore, like we've been trying to like really, we've been studying stories, studying entertainment industries, studying cultural institutions, reading books. Me and you read a lot of the same books. I'll be like, hey, have you read this history of Saturday Night Live? You should read this history. Hey, read this history of MTV. And but I think that's been really helpful because I don't think a lot of executives do that, or they think too
Right.
clearly about how cultural institutions have been built. And we've had time to be able to do that and focus on that. And I think there's one demonstrable thread that me and you have come through as we've been studying that, and that is there is, with all these things, something that came before the hit.
Right.
There was never, it was never like, what they always say, like uh, uh, there's no such thing as overnight success, like that line. But that's legitimately true, especially in media and arts, and we've seen it. I mean, like MTV, well, could you imagine trying to get investment for MTV? I think about it all the time. So the pitch is we're going to do a whole cable channel that is going to play music videos. Well, their response is, what is a music video? And their response is, well, there's 10 of them right now.
Right.
There's 10, like I think when they launched they had 12, maybe 12 music
like
videos.
that.
Yeah, and they played those 12 music videos pretty much on loop. And then bands saw it and started making their own music videos. Darren Doan was highly involved in that creation of the music video industry. Punk rock music, they started making their own music videos in their garages and stuff, and just sending them to MTV. And the MTV executives were just like super happy to like have music videos. They would just play these, whatever they get, they would play, and that's how you got crazy huge brands and stuff.
Well, you had groups like ZZ Top that were, mostly an unpopular, failing group until until MTV came along, and the music video was able to put their brand, their image, the beards basically in front of everybody, and they became a hugely popular and influential band. The music was not different, right? It just suddenly there was a medium to get their image in front of everybody.
I think if the book is I Want My MTV, if you want to read it, but I think in that book they said it was the first time that people got to see the faces of their bands.
Yeah, right.
Because for the most part they weren't, there wasn't YouTube, there wasn't internet, unless they were on a late night TV show, or if they had some sort of television appearance, then their face wasn't getting out there. So people, so you get someone like ZZ Top and they got long beards and you're like, oh, what an awesome band that is. And so yeah, so I mean, like, but I think like pitching that today would be like really challenging, because it's like, hey, we're going to create something that doesn't exist, but it's going to be really important once it exists. And that's a real challenging thing. Especially, I love the story of their first $10 million investment coming from the guy. They were in the hotel room, and the
Yeah.
guy was like, "Wait a minute, are you saying that you don't make any content?" He's like, and they were like, "Yeah, like the bands just send us content." And he said, "Never heard of a TV network that doesn't have to make their own content," and then wrote a $10 million check. And I'm like, "Well, that's lore, right?"
Right.
We don't make any of the content; all the artists do it. So, but yeah, so I think so MTV, and then if you could read Live from New York, the biography of Saturday Night Live is another one, with all the interviews from all the cast members and from all the different periods, talking about how, all the way from the first show all the way on. And so there's pipelines, right?
Right.
That's the one thing missing from conservative media is pipelines, and we're always focused on building the end, which we actually do a terrible job of that, because we're not actually building the end of the pipeline, because the movie theaters are not. We're not building those, right? So even on that end, and so me and you got to thinking, it's like, okay, we need to sort of figure out like what is missing. And I think going to the Christian film festivals, what was that? Yeah, let's talk about that. Because you've been going to Christian film festivals for about 4 years now, and we talked to a lot of filmmakers. What did you learn? Like, what was the first things that you were like, oh, this needs to be fixed, this is the
Yeah.
problem?
I think that the what you run into is that um that the smart filmmakers are thinking, I've got to have distribution, and so they're looking at the distribution and then deciding what to make based on it, um, and with the hope that they do that enough times, they'll get to do the thing that they want to do. Right? So they don't have the full the you know they don't put their whole passion into many of their projects, because they're working backwards from what can I get distribution on. But a lot of the distribution um is designed to take advantage of the artist rather than to help the artist. And so you have distribution deals that where they sign 50 um they sign, let's say, 50 different movies, and then they know they can package them together and sell those 50 different movies as a library for $10,000. That is then split in half, because half of it is taken by the distribution company, and then that what's left is then divided uh, into 4 payments for each quarter of the year, and becomes a payout, right? That isn't anywhere near what it costs to make the movie, but it's the only distribution game in town. And so people were so basically, without somebody changing the possibilities of distribution, the whole industry was in a loop where it was continuing to you were continuing to get the same sort of stuff because it was the only stuff that could get distributed, but the distribution wasn't paying enough for people to take what they were making and then go and make things they actually wanted, which was the goal of most of the artists. Was, I'm making this thing for now because I can sell it, but someday I'm going to get out and make the thing that I actually want to make. And there were
Well,
amazing ideas out there, just not, and the talent was there, but the distribution was getting in the way of the talent getting to be talented.
yeah, I think the thing that motivated me the most was a conversation we had with a young filmmaker. And he made a really great movie, but in high school, and for like no budget movie, and he got it rejected at every Christian Film Festival because there's too much. There was violence. It was about violence and drugs, and it's a great film for a high schooler to make with no money, and it was just kept getting rejected because of the content. Not that the content was bad. It was just not of the typical rom-com sort of variety that it works. And then I think the next year we saw him and he pitched to us, and it was that whatever he was pitching was that rom-com thing. And I looked at him and I said, dude, did you pitch this because you could sell it or because you really want to make it? And he was like, maybe a little of both. And I was
Yeah.
like, dude, don't do that. Don't do that. But that's the problem. It's like, hey, I'm married, I have a wife, I have to make movies that the distribution companies want. And if the distribution companies want garbage, then I have to make garbage that I know I can sell to them. And so that's the loop you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was also him that said, you know, everybody's talking about having a seat at the Hollywood table, and I don't even feel like I got a seat here. Right.
Right.
Which was that kept me awake at night for a few days thinking about that. It's just like you have this talented filmmaker who's making content and nobody recognizes him or pays attention to him because the content he makes is more of the action adventure style than the typical rom-com sort of stuff that we see. And that was just, man, that was heartbreaking. And so me and you we came up with Fridge Magnet. Basically we wanted just like an animated variety show. Right? Like that because initially it
Yeah.
was going to be a TV show that we were going
Right.
to do. That was just a bunch of different animators just putting together like a 5-minute cartoon. And then eventually some of those cartoons would take off and spin off into their own series.
Yeah.
But then as we got to thinking, as we were like, maybe Fridge Magnet is a bigger idea than just a TV show. Maybe it's a entrance to a pipeline. And you read about Adult Swim and The Simpsons and Family Guy and Rick and Morty and how they all came from I believe they all came from Channel 101, which was this website before YouTube that all these animators would animate their cartoons on and upload to.
Yeah, except for the Simpsons, which came from the Tracy Ullman show. But yeah.
Yeah, but weren't they doing stuff on Channel 101?
The illustrator might have been, that might have been where they found the animator in the first place.
No, that still would have been too early because that was late 80s, 90s, right? So the internet didn't exist then.
Yeah, so I don't know how they would have found him because you had the same.
Oh no, it was groaning in his comic books, right?
So it was the Life is Hell. Is that what the comic?
Yeah, right. And so he didn't
want to
give up the right. He didn't want to give up the rights to Life is Hell, so he created new characters for the Tracy Ullman show. But for the most part, a lot of those Nickelodeon, Adult Swim, Nickelodeon sort of animators got their start from this Channel 101 website. And that's where we're kind of like, it's like, well, what is like the conservative version of Channel 101? And nothing existed. Like there wasn't anything for that. And we're like, well, let's just have a section on our website called Fridge Magnet and let that be the new Channel 101. And we expanded that obviously to action and sketch comedy and just basically short films. So why do we say let's focus on micro budget content? Like why is that important?
Well, the biggest thing is that you've got to create IP and then develop it and develop an audience to get to anything major, right? You can't buy a blockbuster, because a blockbuster takes years of IP development before you can get there.
Yeah,
and
like you said, you can't light a log with a match. You have to have the kindling.
Yeah, you have to have the kindling. You have to have even just the paper to get things going. But there's no place where you can actually develop the kindling in order to see, hey, is this thing going to burn or not? And as soon as we started, looking around and saying, hey, we're going to do this, we had a lot of artists say, oh, okay, well, so I've got a place where I can test out an idea that I've got. I can make something small that is a proof of concept for a bigger thing. A lot of the artists got it immediately. But we just have never had the pipeline to allow them to do that.
Right. It's just, and it's kind of just been like amazing to me that we haven't had that, because it's like when you read all the books and you study all the history and I mean, we've talked to two people who started cable TV channels, and they really understand what we're doing because they were in the cable TV business. And I think a lot of the streaming stuff is coming from box office business, box office to streaming, whereas I think cable TV to streaming is those guys who are doing that have a much stronger understanding of what's happening and what's going on and the value of niche markets and low budget, because that's how they all that's how they all started. And so it doesn't just I mean, even Netflix like started tiny.
Yeah.
I was listening to Ted Sarandos talk about Reed Hastings, and he said in 1999 they knew in 1999 when they first started shipping out DVDs, they knew eventually it would just be a distribution play, online distribution play. That's where they wanted to go in 1999.
Wow.
It's insane. Like, it's insane. Like, so the forethought of that was probably what was 10 or more years it took them to get to that point where, but they had to build out the infrastructure and the audience and stuff to be able to really like move in that direction. So even Netflix didn't just start with, I don't know if you've ever read the book on Netflix, but they first time they shipped a DVD, and they were worried. I don't know if I have the whole story, but they were worried that the DVD would be chewed up processes. So they sent the DVD to see if it would survive, and it did survive. It did survive, and they just put it in a regular envelope at the time, and
Right.
and it was like several years later they realized that the only reason that DVD survived was because it was in one of the few zip codes that did manual processing by hand and to ship it. So where it went, they manually shipped it, and eventually, obviously, they added the cardboard, the thicker
Yeah.
envelope, knew what they had to do to be able to protect the DVD, but they were like, they realized, man, like, we would have never started Netflix if that DVD went to where it was at a different zip code. Because they didn't think it was possible. VHS tapes were too expensive to ship, so it had to be DVDs because they were
Yeah.
going to do VHS tapes, but the cost didn't make sense. So like I said, like every cultural institution starts very small, micro levels, and so that's why I think Fridge Magnet is important. And man, we've gotten a lot of great responses from Fridge Magnet. So I want to have you talk about the artist and the show of the three shows that we have now, and
Yeah.
then what we're hoping to have in the future. But so the first one I think is Fleur de Lis.
Yeah. So Fleur de Lis, what's amazing is we've got this really talented uh, storyteller, right? He's been working in video games, he's been working in animation, but he's really what his talent is in storytelling, and then his ability to look around and see the technology and figure out how to use it himself, right? He's a real do-it-yourself type of guy, and he's the kind of guy that's got all the old technology and has figured out how to run it through his computer, right? So he's got a VHS player so that he can plugged through things in order to get to his computer, so that when he needs something to look like a VHS, he can run it through there and get a real VHS look for something, right? It's that kind of do-it-yourself mentality that says, well, I can figure out how to do it. I can. And so he uses AI in some places. He uses the creative tools that he uses are really cutting edge, and it makes it possible for him to make things for a lot less expensive. But because he also has the talent as a storyteller, all of the tools, when they come together, people forget, oh, he's using these tools, or sometimes people don't even realize it because the story and the characters are so engrossing. And so it's this just really
Right.
heartwarming show that's about a family in New Orleans, or outside of New Orleans, and a husband and wife that are just always trying to figure out how to make rent, right? So it's just a great, hilarious show. And but the episodes are short and popular, and when he finishes this season, um I mean, I'm sure he's going to want to do another season, and we can up the cost of per episode because now people love it and they're ready for it, and it'll help him be able to build this brand, Fleur de Lis, into what he's trying to do, which is, well, which you can ask him if he wants to tell what his long-term goals are. So we've got that one, which is great. As far as I know, it's the only AI. It's the only animation that's fully integrating AI into its process,
and being streamed and published,
public. Yeah, which is amazing. And so I don't know why more people aren't talking about that, because it's really an amazing use of the new technological tools.
I think one of the reasons is unions don't want you talking about AI, right? Right?
Yeah.
Like that they don't want you to. He uses AI for some of his character voices. That's not. But I think that's like he's using AI like South Park uses construction paper, right?
Right.
Like people who do hand drawn animation didn't get mad because South Park was using construction paper. They were like, oh, that's brilliant use of animation, stop motion animation and stuff at the time. And so, but he's not see, the difference is though that Ethan isn't using AI to make the story for him. He's using it as a paintbrush, right? So that's the key difference. Like if he was just like, if these entire shows were generated in 30 seconds by him doing a prompt on it on ChatGPT, they'd be awful, right? So but he's just using the tools available to him in the creative process to help free him up to just focus on the story. And that shows through on that show, and I'm excited for Ethan. I think it's brilliant show. And I'm glad that Lore got to be one of the first streaming platforms to air it, and a cartoon series that's uses AI in the way that it does. Like that's something like I think most studios, like if he would have gone to Daily Wire and said, "Hey, I got this great idea for a show. It's $200 an episode," they would have laughed him out of the room. Like he wouldn't have, because they have too much money, right? Their army's too big, right? So that, and then you have, which I was just on a podcast recently, and I was like, I don't know how we got this, but Esoterra.
So what's great? So Esoterra is a series of shorts, all set in the world of Esoterra. So each episode is a self-contained short that where you've got Nick, the filmmaker, he's building out sets. He's experimenting with some filmmaking technology. He's experimenting with some different prop construction and things in order to get all of the. Yeah, he makes them himself. Yeah. In order to get all of the things that he needs to.
Didn't he build a rain machine too?
Yeah, he built a rain machine because the rental was too expensive, and so he's like, "Oh, I'll just build one. I'll figure it out." Right? He's really, it's that DIY mentality that really, like early punk rock, early hip hop, early sketch comedy, all had that same mentality. And that's the reason it all kind of grew up side by side in New York. Was that mentality was what held all those things together. Well, what you have is him building the world one short at a time, because he wants to make a show called Respite, right? That's set in the world of Esoterra, or so that show Respite is the goal. But by by building the world using shorts, it gets him what he needs. It also proves out the concept to an audience, builds an audience, builds the intellectual property, but it also it builds his skills on filming in this sci-fi world that he's building, right? So he can build out the different things that he needs to be able to make the television show using the shorts. So in this way, it's a lot like something like The Simpsons, where you build the characters, you build out your processes and everything on the shorts on the Tracy Ullman Show, and then you get the money to go make the pilot, and then the pilot gets you the first season. And by the end of the first season, you finally have everything set, right? Because it takes a long time to build IP and build a new world, but you never get there if you try to go straight there, because it's too hard. It's been too hard on the for conservatives to figure out how to monetize the process.
Science fiction is hard, man.
It really is.
That's why we don't have it. It's super expensive to produce. It's insanely complex, and the fans are very, very passionate. So you can't just make up your own sci-fi rules, right? Like, so
right.
So like they get really mad. There's always, Neil deGrasse Tyson always commenting about the actual science behind it and trying, so it's very tough. But what I love is, like, because we've been putting out some of the behind the scenes videos that he's been making, and his ability to say, look, these are the shorts, but this is where it's gonna be. So invest in and contribute to making the shorts, because you're not just making the shorts. Like, you're helping us build out this world over a long-term play in which Esoterra is going to be a regular science fiction series of a grand scale later. So, like, this is the thing. Like, these are the artists that need that pipeline, and it's not something that, people say, well, why can't they just do that on YouTube? What I think, like, Fridge Magnet is like one step above YouTube.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of these filmmakers are very, very busy working, doing gig work. They're, like YouTubers are not filmmakers, and filmmakers are not YouTubers. Like not all filmmakers are YouTubers, right? So like what Fridge Magnet is, it's a platform for people who are already in the industry trying to get out, or they've been teaching themselves through homeschool for the past 10 years, and they don't need to waste time building an audience on YouTube for the 5 years that it would take to actually create a sustainable income, only for YouTube to eventually cancel you because you said something on Twitter they didn't like, right? so it's a way to skip that process and go directly to an audience, to directly create that audience, and it's time saving. And I think it allows for the production and the storytelling to be the focus, as opposed to on YouTube, the focus is on what's going to get the attention of the algorithm in the first 30 seconds so that it actually carries itself, right? So there's completely different rules required.
Yeah.
Like, if somebody wants to make a 10-minute movie that has a much longer character development that the algorithm would normally throw out because people weren't interested or wouldn't get it until like the last bit, it allows them that time to be able to make that content and tell that story in the fullness, whereas the YouTube algorithm is just not made. It's just not made for that. And also, I also say that YouTube like transcribes every word and throws stuff out that it rejects, and so there's not a lot of freedom on YouTube like there used to be to really just focus on the story.
The main audience, if you're a YouTuber, your main audience is the algorithm,
right? It's not
it's not your audience, right?
Right.
So that's the same. It's similar to Hollywood, where the executives are your primary audience always when you're pitching, right? So you're trying to figure out what do they like, and so you don't have the freedom to just legitimately serve your audience, which is what we're trying to create, is that ability for a filmmaker to come in and say, hey, I want to serve an audience. Are you there to the audience, did this connect with you, right? Did you laugh? Did you cry? Did you know, it was this like that's where like fleur de lis, it surprises me when I get so moved, because I know the because I know that it's an AI voice, and I know, and then you get moved by something and you go, oh man, that was so good. And I
How
think
was I just moved emotionally by AI?
by AI, but it's because the AI is the tool and the storytelling's so good. And I mean, I literally went and searched out he put a product placement in, and I was
I
like,
saw
oh,
that.
I want that, right? I
Yeah,
need some of that Cajun dust, right?
yeah.
And it was
Cajun Is that what it was?
it was
Cajun
Cajun
dust.
dust. I'd never even heard
Yeah,
of it. I'd never even heard of it. But here I am searching it out, trying to figure out what it costs to have it shipped to my house up in the Northwest. And I
yeah.
was like, we are onto something.
That
If
Cajun dust. They need to sponsor a Blitz mode, man,
yeah, they do.
or a whole
Like,
episode or
or a
whatever.
whole episode, or even just just do something where it's like, the top 5 people that give to the next episode get a free bottle of Cajun dust.
Yeah,
Even something like that.
yeah,
But I didn't know it was a real thing the first time I saw it. And the second time I saw it, I actually was like, I got to search this out. But that's the power of a good story, of one that you're connected to and characters you care about. The they made me want Cajun dust. I don't even know what Cajun
yeah.
dust is. I'm pretty sure it's spices, I think.
Isn't
But I
it?
was like, whatever it is,
I think
and,
it's a crawfish seasoning.
is it?
I think that's what it is. Yeah, because I think
Oh, I
Ethan
love
posted
it.
he posted a Twitter today of his pet crawfish that he had.
Okay.
Did you see that?
No, I haven't seen it yet. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And so I guess like he posted a picture of his pet crawfish, and I guess like the crawfish was encouraging you to fund the next episode or something like
I love it.
that.
But that's when you feel connected to that's when you feel connected to the world, and it's like these are starting to feel like my people. So I want to eat like them. And
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Like
right.
that's one of the ways God made the world that I think is a blessing. And when you try to just buy straight to the Blockbuster, you're not taking into account the human connection, thinking that this is just another form of information transfer. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie blew up, and was fantastic. The first one, when you rewatch it, you think, why was this so popular? It's, the guys it's big turtle suits, but it was because you were already connected to the characters. You're already connected. I mean, the puppet, and then puppetry is obviously just a great art form too.
Yeah,
But
they should never gone CGI with a with a
yeah,
with a turtle movie.
I agree. Although I liked the reboot, the number
Oh
2.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was good. So I'm not complaining. I actually liked the second one a lot, but
Are you talking about that new animated one that came out?
oh no, that one was amazing too. No,
Yeah, that one was really good.
the live action reboot with
The
Michael
Michael
Bay.
Bay one?
The second one it was really solid. It was really good.
Yeah, yeah.
But that blockbuster was a blockbuster because back in 1984, you get the blockbuster in the mid 90s because back in 1984 you had this somebody take a risk on a street comic, and say, hey, we want to give broad distribution to this street comic, and they were able to build over the course of a decade or more, they were able to build the IP to the point where they could get a blockbuster.
What's a street comic? It's not. You're talking about the book, not a comedian.
Oh yeah, the comic book. So they would, hand drawn and then photocopied and then sell them out of your trunk in New York.
That's
So
how Turtles came about.
that's yeah, yeah.
Oh my
This is
goodness!
beautiful. So
It's This is what I'm saying. Like this is what people don't understand. Like this is the infrastructure that needs to be made.
right.
That where we can take artists that are hand drawing and photocopying their their comic books and selling them on Etsy and turning them into massive
We're getting
IP.
very close, I think, to signing a guy right now he's been selling photocopied hand drawn comic
Oh,
books, and he
that's
wants to turn them
fantastic.
into shorts, and we'll have them in the merch store. I've already talked to him about it. I was like, if we
Oh, the
sign this
actual
all up,
comic books in the
we can
merch
put them.
store.
Can we put the
Oh
comic books in
yeah,
the
that'd
merch
be
store so they
amazing.
can get?
Yeah.
It's fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about the project, and I'm excited about it because I've spent time with this creator, and he's really passionate. He loves the Lord. He loves what he's doing, and he wants to he wants to make people laugh and bless people the way that SpongeBob blessed him. Like that's kind of what he wants to do. He's like, SpongeBob was so huge for me when I was young, and I want to give that to people, right? And so I really think we're gonna get it soon.
That's so exciting. You mentioned the merch store. That's something we're working on next round of investment to build out individual merch stores for each show. I want a a Fleur de Lis shirt or something.
Yeah, I want a lunchbox.
Yeah,
to keep my
awesome.
Cajun dust in.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I would, yeah. So that like there's a lot of things that we want to do with lore that is going to help build out these pipelines, build out these merchandise units, build out basically all the stuff you need before you can get $100 million check for a movie.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before that happens, right?
Yeah.
And so I think
but that is the goal too. That's the other thing is this isn't actually a change in goal. This is us realizing that you can't jump straight to the top of the ladder. You actually have to take each step up to get there.
Right. Carson says I would buy Fleur de Lis merch. Dude, me too.
I mean, you know what I really want? I want Fleur de Lis season 1 on VHS. That's what I want.
He was talking about that, wasn't he?
No, he was.
That's such a great idea.
He's got the setup to make it and sell it. I was like, I will buy it as soon as we've got the merch store up.
That'd be amazing. That'd be a great way to fund season 2 as well. So
yeah, it would.
Yeah, but this is what I'm saying. Like these are artists that are thinking the long game here. And I think that like that's part of the key as to like where you how you have to move the industry. You have to move the industry not with giant banks of cash, but with just what you need to sort of get to where you need to take things. And so that's why Fridge Magnet is important, and why I think I'm really glad we did this. We moved in this direction. We've started to fund content regularly now, and it seems to be generating a lot more excitement and causing people to subscribe more. So if you subscribe now to Lore TV, I like to tell people, like, give us 3 months. Like, spend your loot for 3 months and watch shows that you fund. Get on the platform. Watch shows that have already been funded. Just see how the platform works. Take your time with it and figure it out. And then I think you'll really see what we're trying to do, where we're moving. And I got a great comment from a guy the other day that was like, man, like Fridge Magnet really motivated me to subscribe, because as soon as he was aware of it, like he was like, I know exactly what they're doing. Like that's exactly what's missing and whatnot. So if you go to loor.tv, you can subscribe. You get a free 7-day trial. You'll get to spend your loot immediately in that 7-day trial. Go ahead and try it out. Give it a shot, and start funding content. And also, I should mention all the content that's already been when you subscribe. So if you subscribed very early on to Lore TV and there wasn't a lot of content and you watched it all, get back on Lore TV, subscribe again, and there's at least 50 pieces of content now that you can watch that wasn't there at the beginning of last year when we first launched. So slowly over time, we're building a content library. The subscribers are building a content library and putting stuff out there and whatnot. So give it a shot or try it again and see how much has changed since the last time you were on there. I think you'll be really surprised by a lot of the content. Oh, we didn't even mention What the Church.
Oh, and we got the church. It's funded all the way too. So
Yeah,
go on
the
there.
whole
Season 1 is funded, and I just talked with the creator about, do you want to do season 2? What do you want to do for season 2?
I want to mention this. Emilio's the creator, Emilio Martinez. He worked with Bob Odenkirk way back before, Mr. Show and all that sort of stuff. Just one of the funniest dudes I know. He called me the other day and he said, "Hey, I just want you to know that I got paid." and the rumors aren't true. Lore TV does pay their artists. And I said, "Well, did you get paid all you wanted?" He said, "Well, actually, I wanted to put the episodes up for free to help Lore TV, but Jason Farley wouldn't let me go unpaid. So I got actually more than what I asked for." And I was like, dude, that's the heart of what we're doing. Is like, yeah, we don't think $200 an episode for Fleur de Lis should always be that price. It's worth a lot more, and we want to work with our artists and filmmakers to figure out how they can maximize and make a living doing this stuff. But we also know that you have to start somewhere, and the ones that are willing to start somewhere are the ones that can take it all the way to where it needs to go. That's how you weed out the hustler mentality.
Yeah, and what the church is sketch comedy that's recorded rather than live sketch comedy, that is just focused around the goofy ways that Christians talk to each other, the goofy ways that Christians think about some things, and it's very funny. If you watched early MTV, they had a show called The State, and I think of What the Church in a similar sort of way, where it introduces you to people that you've never seen. It's writers, it develops writers, and that gives people experience, and it's gives you a good chuckle along the way. And so you say, okay, well, I need some more of that. So and then I know, Emilio's got another show in the pipeline that he is working on also. So hopefully it gives some money for development for the amazing stuff that Emilio's bringing. And Emilio is running for Congress down in California right now. So
Yeah, here's a question from Michael, but I'm not exactly sure because there's a typo in it. How can a creator being to make money with fridge? Maybe it's begin to make money.
Begin. Yeah. So how it works is you start out by saying, here's what I've got, here's what I want to do, and within the Fridge Magnet has just the smaller budgets. So we've got other things on the platform with larger budgets that we're raising for and getting to.
Breaking Laws just got funded.
Yeah, Breaking Laws just got funded.
That's the first show that is actually going into production right off the bat. For once they receive the funding, right? So that's like really cool. That'll be our first time we see if a pilot gets made. Which, by the way, in Hollywood, pilots don't get made like that. That's so rare, and especially in streaming now it's full season orders right away, right off the bat. So like the fact that your pilot can be funded on Lore, it can be put for the audience, and they can decide if they want to fund the rest of the season or not, or an additional episode like that just doesn't happen. Especially doesn't happen in the faith-based streaming because there's not a market at all for episodic content. Like we go to the pitchathons, everybody's pitching us episodic content, and we're like, how come none of these streamers are getting episodic content? Like that's like what they're still focused on the box office lottery ticket, right? They want to win the lottery
ticket.
Yeah.
So Fridge Magnet goes up with the shorter form smaller budget things as a test. So you say, hey, this is what I want to make, and people say, yeah, I like it, or they don't, and they don't fund it, and then you get paid when it gets funded and it begins to stream, and then you the and depending on how different people are thinking about it. Some people, they get one thing funded and they roll it into the next thing and begin production on the next thing, or they've produced maybe a couple of episodes, and the idea being that it's a way to test it out, to begin building an audience, to begin getting feedback, right? Because you start seeing, man, that thing worked. People really connected with that, or that's what they're talking about. And it gives you that the feedback loop directly with your audience to and then some money to work on the next project. Right? So and that feedback loop is I think the most valuable thing that Fridge Magnet gives, because once you've connected with an audience and you've add value to their life, then they're excited to give you money for more, right? That's the way capitalism works, is when you add value to somebody's life and they pay you for it, everybody's happy. And so Fridge Magnet is a way to do that with smaller risk, shorter form content, and with hopefully the goal of getting that audience on board for something longer and bigger and more expensive down the road.
So if you have an idea, you can pitch it. And I have a link somewhere. I'll try to post it in the comments. But there's a way to pitch Lore TV. It's get.loretv/fridge-magnet. And if you go there, there's a form. I'll see if it'll let me post it. But there's a form in the link. Well, I posted it on YouTube in the comment section on YouTube, but I'll put it in the description here on LinkedIn. But if you go to that website, you can submit basically a synopsis and stuff.
Michael had another question. He asked if it was paid per views like YouTube or preset amount, and it's a preset amount, right? So it's an agreed upon amount in advance, and then it's pitched to the audience, and then the audience decides if they think it's worth that or not. But with the voting system. So if you haven't been on Lore, we have the mechanism that we use for the system is video game currency. So it's got video game currency system, microtransactions where people put their currency towards
non-physical assets.
Non-physical assets.
So basically the way it works is your monthly subscription is converted into loot every month, and then every week, the subscribers come together and fund the content that they want, or they can buy gold loot and they can fund a show faster. Like Florida Lee, like one person could just fund a whole episode. You can just go there, buy $200 worth of gold loot and fund that thing. So it's a very simple process. A really great way to support an artist or to let them know that you really, really like what they're doing. So that's the way it works. It's $100 billion industry, video game microtransactions last year. And we just think it's better to use that system to fund movies and TV shows that last for generations instead of extra lives that last like a few minutes or less if you're really bad at the game. So.
Cool.
Yeah, so I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for everybody that tuned in and commented. We'll try to do this more and talk about Lore and where we're going and some of our plans and stuff as time goes on. I would love to have Granda on here in the middle of production and talk about what he's doing and filming and that sort of stuff. And maybe we could get Ethan Hill or Emilio on here another time and just talk about sort of how things are going. So. And Tim Ingle, of course, of Barely Biblical, which that show's funding pretty well too now. So, second episode.
Behind the Beards and Bikes is got some good traction too. It's Behind the Beards and Bikes is doing well too. It's amazing, like what's getting funded and the rate of which stuff is getting funded now. So, well, it has been fun time.
And Michael, if you can, Jason will contact you on LinkedIn to answer more of your questions. I'm sure he'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, if we're not already friends, friend me.
Yeah, Jason Farley on LinkedIn, and then Jason, just reach out to him and send him a message and answer all those questions. So awesome, guys. Well, it's great to talk to you guys. Subscribe to Lower TV, get a free 7-day trial. LOOR.TV. LOOR.TV. All right, bye.